superhero was introduced to the graphic novel genre in the early 1930s with the publishing of Action Comics #1, which features Superman in his first ever rescue of the world. Since then, the comic book, or graphic novel, has become an increasingly popular media in our current pop culture. However, many people have set archetypes of who and what comic books can be used for. Many people believe that comic books simply give people like this.
Lois Lane is falling, accelerating at an initial rate of 32 feet per second. Superman swoops down to save her by reaching out 2 arms of steel. Miss Lane, who is now traveling at approximately 120 miles an hour, hits them and is immediately sliced into 3 equal pieces.
Unless Superman matches her speed and decelerates.
In what space, sir? In what space? She's 2 feet above the ground. Yeah, frankly, if he really loved her, he'd let her hit the pavement. It'd be a more merciful death.
A reason to socialize with other geeks who simply argue the minutiae of whatever their fanboy obsession may be. However, comic books have more recently been proposed as an enhancement to an educational curricula. How can that be, you ask? There are several ways in which comic books can be integrated into learning. One way is analyzing the rhetoric used by a comic book just as you could any other media, such as an essay or text-based novel. Another way in which comic books may enhance reading is through the use of student-generated comic books. Michael Bitts, a senior researcher at the University of Columbia, led a project where he partnered with Dark Horse Comics and allowed for educators to lead an after-school program in which the students created their own comics. He found that both teachers and students felt that this helped enhance their interests and abilities to read and write. Much like Bitts, there have been several other educators around the nation who advocate the use of comic books in education. But what do our local educators think about this? We had a chance to interview some teachers on their opinions, and this is what they had to say.
I think comic books could probably be a good enhancement for students, especially since they're having a really hard time maybe on the lesson that's being presented, and maybe if they have something comical that maybe they can relate to, I think that would probably make them more interested in what's going on and maybe the concept that's being taught, because it's more towards their level, you know, with the superheroes and kind of things like that. So I'm thinking it's probably a good thing. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Since my curriculum, my teaching field is Spanish, and I think that one of my goals is to get them to read in Espanol. So I'm thinking that maybe some Spanish comic books would probably enhance their vocabulary a lot.
Because a lot of them, they think stuff is boring because it doesn't have pictures. In today's society, we all have everything that's game and comedy and action, and not paper and letters. And I guess the comedy would actually come out and talk to them more than just words.
I think it would create more interest in the book. I think kids would want to actually read the story if it was in a comic. And I like creating your own too. There's a lot of kids that are really artsy, and I teach a computer class, so my kids love getting on and creating in Photoshop and all those brands, Illustrator, and all the Adobe. It catches their interest more than anything else. So I think it's actually a really good idea. I think for me, the computer version would be good. I've actually had my kids create a comic strip using some of the programs that we have, and you'd be surprised right away. Everybody's interested in the project. So yeah, that would be cool actually.
I've taught ESL, I've taught middle school English 7th and 8th grade, I've taught pre-AP English, English 1, and I've also done camps back when we had tax camps for juniors and seniors that hadn't passed tax. Well, I am actually a big proponent of graphic novels in the classroom, especially for our struggling learners. Because you have classics like the Iliad, the Odyssey, Fahrenheit 451, where students would normally struggle with understanding the verbiage in the book itself. So by putting it in a graphic novel, you're not taking away the content. You're just making the content more accessible to struggling learners. And so the key word is having opportunities for all students to get the same material. So this works really good for even our ELL population because it has the actual graphics. So the graphics will actually enhance their comprehension. So I don't think that this would be a whole year long thing, but maybe a springboard to get students hooked into reading. So that's how I see it, as a springboard and a medium to connect reading in a vehicle where students would understand it, whether it's your ELL students, your special ed students, or just your struggling learners who are a little bit reluctant to read because for some reason or another they struggle. I don't quote me on the research, but it used to be that 1 out of 5 students doesn't actually see a picture when they read. So that's alarming. So you're going to have, out of your 25 students, 5 kids that can't visualize what is happening. So this for them would be a perfect medium, the graphic novel. And they still keep the same components of, your literary elements if it's a fictitious novel. So the plot, the characterization, it's all there and it's maximized for them.
However, just as there are those who agree with the integration of comic books into education, there are those who argue against it. These people argue that students may lean on comic books too much and become dependent on visual aids, which would hurt them in the long run. Another argument is that due to the visual element, it is very easy to cross the line with visual representations of what was previously only text. These are valid points and should be considered when integrating comic books into education. However, it should not deter us from implementing this tool. If used properly, comic books allow students a greater opportunity in education. It is our responsibility to provide students with all of the assistance we possibly can. Each year, approximately $2 billion are spent on students who repeat a grade because of a reading problem. If we hold any tool that allows for students to better their reading abilities and confidence, it is our duty to provide that opportunity. If you would like to get involved in bringing comic books to a school near you, you can do so by contacting your local school board. You can also start an after-school comic book program at a library near you. For more information, you can visit the Illyria Comic Book Initiative website.